you were one of the co-founders, right? You saw something, either an opportunity that you thought you could do something with, or there was a problem that really bugged you. Like, what was it that made you say, I'm willing to commit a lot of energy, time, and years of my life to go after this? Like, what was it in those early days?
Well, actually, there were like two dimensions that I just match and merge together. One was the desire to do something by myself, by something worthy at business level, and related to innovation as well. And I found the best travel mate for this journey, which was Alberto Acedo. So that's how we decided, well, to start our first company. And the reason because we started Biomakers specifically is because we are originally from Spain. We come from the northwest of Spain. It's called the Spanish Midwest, just for you to know which kind of crops are the most predominant in that area. So corn, sugar beets are the main crops in the area. And from time to time, we were not able to drink the tap water because the lot of chemicals. And instead of just blaming farmers and the agriculture, we realized that probably there was something missing and we could provide some value. And what we realized it was missing, it was reliable bioindicators, biomarkers for agriculture. And that's how we started to explore new dimensions, possibilities of applying technologies to really provide these insights to agriculture. And that was the conception of Biomakers. That's how we started. The story can be much longer, but just in a nutshell, that's the reality.
Yeah, that's the start anyway. So fast forward through a lot of effort and years. When you meet somebody who's maybe not in the industry, how do you explain Biomakers to them?
Well, in essence, what we say is we connect soil to digital systems and we connect humans to the soil life, both ways. So that's how we explain what we do. Going a little bit more in details, if we want to explain really in one sentence, it's advanced biological analytical soil tests and analytics for soil, for agriculture. And then when you start going a little deeper on what it goes or it means, sorry, actually it's first we digitalize the biology of the soil and then we start applying advanced computing to understand the impact of these microbes for plant growth, meaning what are the different functionalities that the microbes are delivering to the plant or threatening to the plant, and also understanding the ecological relationships of this community, and all of this in a digital context.
That's great. So what has been some of the, I don't know, obstacles that you have overcome to date that you look back and say, oh, I'm so glad we don't have to deal with that anymore, or that we got past that hump? Like, what were some of those difficulties that you ran into in the early days that you feel like you're now past?
There are, again, two levels of difficulties. No, on one hand, as entrepreneurs, when you want to build a company, you face probably the same difficulties than other entrepreneurs. But specifically for our business opportunity, there were technical difficulties that were extremely important. We didn't have any reference, any point to start from. So we have to start from building that specific reference to start understanding what is the normal status of a soil at biological level, no? What is a normal functionality, crop by crop, region by region. So that's one of the things we started to do 7 years ago, creating this database, this reference, and right now we can proudly say that we have the largest database in the world for biological soil profiles of farm soils, arable soils. And that was like the first. The second one is a market difficulty. Now, this is a completely new dimension. So people, especially agronomists, the professionals, the doctors of agriculture, they didn't have much knowledge about this dimension. So we have to, well, first, make them feel comfortable by facing this new dimension, because many of them were like, hey, I don't know anything, so that's a threat itself, right? So working with them, helping them to understand and actionate the different results, that's another difficulty, because at the end of the day, this is completely new. from the market point of view, nobody was asking for advanced biological tests, not for their fields, but because it was not possible before. But now, because the technology was ready and because we put everything together, adjust it, and then create this amazing service, this amazing Victor platform. This is the name of the technology. Well, now it's possible, but creating that early traction by identifying the most innovative companies that are really eager and hungry to test and experience these new dimensions. That was very difficult. The good thing is that we found nice people helping us all along the journey, all along the way, mentors, advisors, friends, and collaborators as well. So all the industry were connecting us to different players that at the end of the day, well, took us to build the reference, create the early traction, and start educating agronomists.
Yeah. Everybody wants to be a first mover, but being a first mover isn't always easy, right? Whenever you're trying to pioneer or spearhead a category. How did you in the early days, and maybe still today, how do you identify someone who you think will be sort of excited by this solution, open to new possibilities, open to new ways of kind of doing what they do? And what do those conversations look like? What are some of the maybe value props you might lead with when speaking with them?
Well, if being a first mover might look difficult, but at the end, but it's also very exciting. I have to say the reality. If you like challenges, that's what you like, and it's not easy for sure. It's like climbing a really high mountain or a really technical mountain. It's not easy, but it's what you are really preparing yourself to face and to achieve. So answering your question, I will say that we've been extremely lucky to connect to some players in not just in agriculture, but in the biotech world, startup world, that knew somebody who were not actively involved in agriculture, but helping other players. For instance, we started in one specific crop, which was vineyards, so wine industry, and Illumina, who, well, we were also lucky. At the end, it's coincidence, casual that happens, and you are not expecting that all the energy align, and your mentors start to, well, trust you, and you identify these people. So Illumina, the largest genetic company in the world, was the first company really trusting this idea and supporting us. And Illumina connected us to the Silicon Valley Bank. And it happens that one of the divisions of the Silicon Valley Bank is wine industry. So they already knew which wineries were open or more eager to help and to accept these kind of experiments. So that was the beginning. And from there, you just start creating traction, talk to everybody, and think that collaboration is important. We come from the open innovation school. We love it, we embrace it, and we know that if we want to change something, we can be the trigger, but we cannot do it alone. It has to be a collaborative effort, and that's the reason, because the crowdfunding, crowd knowledge, and all these movements are working so well.
Do you feel like you're still speaking with early adopters, or are you starting to move into kind of the early mainstream at this point? Like, where do you think you're at in that journey?
I think we are just at the beginning of the majority. I would say early majority is already in progress. What we see is the moment to start scalability. In 2022 has been the year to identify the different triggers to actionate the scalability of the growth. And we can probably say that we have doubled our revenues, our activity, and we really believe that for the coming years, this is going to keep increasing.
That's great. You talked about the database, right? You have this resource that others don't have. What does that allow you to do? What does the power of that data allow you to do that others aren't able to do right now?
Well, if you think about the bioindicator that we use, which is the community of microbes, profiling microbes I would say it's not difficult. Actually, it's difficult, but there are many people who can do that. So we're not just a, let's say, sequencing service, because we do it by looking at the DNA of the microbe. So we can deliver full profiles of bacteria and fungal species, which at the end of the day are the ones that are really relevant. So if we deliver just which microbes are in the soil, the value for the farmer is very little, because you can imagine a profile of 1,200 different microbes. Well, then you have to really analyze each one of them and the impact, and still you will not get the whole picture. So having this reference help us to really make comparison, and then adding these unique features that we manage at Biomakers, this functionality and ecological relationships that we measure through the network, help us to understand what is a normal or an exceptional situation, what is really high or really low. We should forget about what is good or bad, because in the soil, depending on what is your goal, what is the question, what is what you are growing there, a certain situation could be very positive or could be very negative for another crop different. So that's the reason, because we just provide insights on what is the most frequent, what is normal on, and then compare to the what normal rates of the yield, no, that the people get in the field, and what is unique, no. And having this reference give us this possibility, and that was the beginning. What we're exploring right now is how to apply even more advanced computing, no, artificial intelligence, to start building predictions on everything that is happening in the soil, and being able to even define what could be the right application or the right solution fitting or matching that specific soil profile that we see at functional level always. And also on the other way around, not just for applications, but understanding, well, if this is the average biological status that we see in this region, and these are the risks, and these are the trends, and so on, well, perhaps how you can improve at regional level or large level the biological status, these indicators, is easier because those predictions. So yeah.
Within the industry, I'm sure you're talking with people who have a great appreciation for the work that you're doing, fully understand the implications. But outside the industry, I would imagine you still run into people who think soil is soil, and they have no idea how intricate it can be. Are you still running into people who have that misperception?
Well, there are some metrics that in the moment people underestimate the value of the soil. You start just throwing this data, not this data point. So if we say that 95% of our food comes directly or indirectly from the soil, that's a lot. So the soil starts to be very important. And then if we say that we've lost 1/3 of the arable soil globally in just 40 years, and building a soil takes thousands of years, then people start understanding, well, perhaps this is a dimension more important we're thinking. But yeah, when we explain the business model, especially to families and so on, no, what do we do? They see the recognition, they see the traction, they see that we are growing. I mean, we're right now 80 people in the company, which 4 years ago we were no, well, at the beginning we were 2. 4 years ago we were 15. So you can see the growth of and the evolution of the company, and people see this. And it's like, how is it possible that a company working on delivering analytics on soil is growing so much? So for them, it's like, yeah, but it's because we have the conception of the traditional soil testing labs, let's say, which is a very defined technique, is very well developed and established. And this is completely new dimension, mixing biotech with IT. So that's like, okay, no, and then applying to agriculture. Actually, when we started with this, we came to California because we know this was the right place to start. Not many investors, not even the industry, not the agriculture, was ready to accept this or to bet on this concept. But here in the Bay Area, that's great, because people is really looking ahead. on the frontier of the knowledge, on the applications, and on the huge business opportunities. So that's the reason because we decided to come here.
Yeah, and I'm sure whenever you started with those conversations, you probably talked, I mean, a little bit about your background and the problem. And you talked about, drinking water was a problem, but you're probably telling them about a vision of, hey, if we can do this, I picture a day where this would be possible. What is that vision that you paint for people whenever you're in a conversation with somebody who's going to make a bet on you?
For us, the first company that Alberto and me built was a genetic diagnostic center focused in hereditary diseases, human health. So the use, no, the goal of this company was really move ahead on personalized medicine. So bringing personalized agriculture approach, that would be amazing. So imagine digital system will help farmers and agronomists to really decide what is the best way to preserve the life of the soil, the natural fertility of the soil, and to boost all these natural processes that have been there helping and supporting and benefiting us for a really long time, but we haven't been able to really actionate or utilize those processes in a a voluntary way. No, we were playing the rules because whenever you throw something to the soil will do the job, no, and decompose it, and then turn those whatever you throw into different nutrients or molecules or whatever enzymes, everything, no. But now we have the capability to really see and then measure and then use, no. And this is the vision, no. Let's be sure we preserve the life of the soil, we restore, we regenerate. Now that regenerative agriculture is a great concept because that makes a lot of sense. That's what we need. Now we regenerate the life of the soil, the natural fertility of the soil. And people really like this because we need that in a planet where a growing population with a really high yields of crop productivity, there is only one way we can keep that level of food supply, because it's possible to increase it. Perhaps we have to work a little bit more on the waste, no, food waste. That's a different dimension. But when it comes to supply food through the different crops, well, probably soil biology is going to be crucial.
Yeah, that makes sense. You talked about how you started as 2 and now you're 80 plus. What's been the most rewarding aspect of the journey so far?
Rewarding, seeing that, experiencing that. Having a team, working in a team is challenging, I have to say. No, sorry, building teams is extremely challenging. But once you have a team and you see that they are taking full ownership on their responsibilities and they are really bringing excellence to that specific dimension, because at the beginning, well, we're entrepreneurs, we did everything, no, but with certain level of excellence, because you cannot cover everything. But now that we have a dedicated marketing team, we see how they are analyzing, doing, and that's completely different. So bringing this to the next level for us is a great experience, and we're not finished yet. No, the journey is still on, but what we see when we look backwards, it's a great satisfaction.
That's awesome. Just to make sure I'm up to speed on this. So as an example, Pivot Bio is our client, right? So they're nitrogen producing microbe specifically for corn. What you're saying is that you could play a role in that because you're able to see what is the actual effects and compare that to your database where it's analyzed all these other situations. And you're saying that there's investors who are very interested in these inputs, but they should also be interested in someone like your team because there's a unbiased third party with a huge database of kind of awareness of what this does. And so it's part of the full ecosystem.
Think about the benchmark of Pivot Bio, know how they are positioning their solutions. By the way, they are our clients as well. So that's perfect. We work with them. And when they go to the market, they face other solutions that probably are not as good as their solution, but there is no way to differentiate that solution in the field. So the reason because we are working with them, or they are working with us better, is because they want to really know what their solutions are doing, so they can build functional claims that have been validated by the third company, and in this case is us, and then also to help them product development. Sorry, product development, and also a target market strategy. Now, if you know that this solution does whatever, and in this area that's the need, you know that your solution is likely going to work better than this other. So you focus to sell your solution there. This is how we're doing it. And if they were able to use our results for registration purposes, and this is something we're talking to different bodies, then it would be even better.
That's great. Are you sought out by partners like those who are wanting to say like, hey, we need someone who's not only going to help validate what we've got, but we want you as an innovation partner for new releases? Is that frequent, or is it just on kind of occasionally you have partnerships like that?
Not frequent. What is frequent is that we work with retailers, also large retailers, for them to pick the right biologicals for their portfolio, or once they have picked the biological, to really understand how to sell it better. This is more frequent.
Great. That's great. And I'm guessing that you're probably the main player in town if that's what they're looking for, right? If they're really trying to customize their offerings, you're the one who can provide it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what you mentioned about first mover, there are other companies that are in the same or with the same approach, but yeah, I will say we have the best position because we've been very serious on validating, working with academia, like showing that what we do is not just something we guess, is something that is the best it can be done at this stage. And this is just keep evolving and keep improving with the time.
What do you hear from the retailers when they give you feedback on the partnership and what you're bringing to the table? Are you getting positive feedback from them?
Mm-hmm. We see two kinds of retailers. The ones that already anticipate what is happening in the market, so the biological trend, and also because they make more money by selling a biological than a traditional fertilizer. And then the ones that just refuse. No, I do money just selling agrochemicals, which we are not against agrochemicals. What we are against is over how you say this, over using over the dose, that you put in the field. So you over apply fertilizers. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, if you don't have the right setup at biological level, that fertilizer is going to sink into the water at the end of the day, right? So what you want is to apply the fertilizer that you need and to have the right biology to really make the nutrient available for the plant. So some retailers still are not there. No, they are still in the same like traditional fertilizer business, and they refuse to make the movement to integrate new solutions. This is going to happen with the time because all of them are going to be forced. And then the ones that are already moving in that direction and facilitating that this transition is happening, and it's happening in the right way. We don't see any negative reaction from those ones. The only limitation barrier is the knowledge, because it's a tool that they still don't know. I mean, you see that you have a blog on nitrogen mobilization on that specific pathway. You go a little bit deeper and you see specifically why this is happening. They still don't know what to do. And it's normal because the solutions that are currently in the market don't match that kind of functional approach.
I'm guessing every once in a while you do run into an agronomist or an advisor who loves it and is like, oh, this is like a power tool. This is like new information. I mean, what are those folks like whenever they are like power users of the information you provide?
We have this program called BCAs, so Biological Certified Advisors. We open all the knowledge that we have to them, and they learn and they become experts on soil biology. That's in essence. And it's curious that the ones we have most interaction, they hate us because anytime they dive into their results, they realize that they know very little, but they love it. And so if they have this attitude of learning, growing, becoming better, then it's extremely easy. And then you have the opposite one, the ones that they just come here, see what is the result and say, I don't know what to do. This is not useful. And it's like, well, there's two answers there, no, or two reaction. We don't know what to do. That's real because probably there is not enough knowledge, but we already have some clues how to move ahead. No, so yeah, it's a lot of fun. But the community is moving in this direction, creating this conversation. So again, what I was referring before about the scalability, this is the moment where eventually everybody will embrace it, and then we'll be extremely successful, or even more successful than we are. Or as it happens in agriculture, it will be progressively happening. And at a certain point, keep in mind, we are a global company. We have operations in 40 different countries. So yeah, it may happen in US, but then actually it's curious. South America, Latin America, it's adopting this kind of analytics at a higher speed than the US, for instance. Europe is a little behind there. I don't know if this is relevant. All of them are moving in this direction, but if you see the growth speed, then there are some differences. And what we see is that Latin America, they have a lot of technification in their decisions because mainly they are exporters of food, and they export to Europe, to US, and the regulations here in these areas are higher. So they are sure they deliver the best they can, and they also advertise it in the right way, because otherwise, yeah, imagine a limitation in bananas, for instance, that might impact the exportation activity, will have a high impact on them.
I was going to ask if there are regionally people who are more progressive or adopting it faster. And you're saying it's South America, and it sounds like you're saying it's because the sort of standard for export to the different markets that they're taking it to requires it, and so they're using this tool to the fullest extent to make sure they meet that. Is that pretty much it, or do you think there's other things at play?
Well, in the case of Latin America, I will say that's because we are working mainly with coffee, cacao, bananas, or tropical crops that at the end of the day are mainly for exporting, palm, and so on. That said, I will say in US, regenerative farmers or agronomists, or everybody who is really actively looking and thinking about implementing regenerative agriculture, they're the ones that are moving faster than the rest. No? Conventional farmers also, but with a different approach, because they want to really see the validation of the biological solutions, because they know that they should boost the soil biology in order to keep or increase their current yields, which are good but could be higher. I mean, if you think about soybeans, for instance, and what is the expectation, it was really interesting to see a farmer, and in the worst year, they were like 80% far from their goal in the worst year of climatic conditions, which means like probably the goal is not properly adjusted, right?
Yeah. Earlier you were talking about how some people kind of reject the learnings because it's not the way they've always done things, and they're probably have a lot of pride in what they've learned to date. I feel like every industry that's bringing more data and analytics into play into what has been a traditionally kind of man-made intuition-based industry is dealing with this. So we see it in sports, we see it in marketing. I mean, in our world, we'll say, hey, here's 2 ads, which was going to perform. Well, in the past, you didn't know, you didn't have A/B testing to find out. But I find that I'm wrong all the time with this stuff, and it doesn't make sense. You're like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. How come I'm wrong on this? But I think it's humbling whenever you accept it and realize this is why we test. And now it's not about being right intuitively. It's about setting up learning activities and trying to unlearn and realize we don't know everything. And this is wildly complex, right?
And it's okay, because we keep learning in life. Probably we become wiser every day. And if somebody is telling you, well, there is another better way to do this, your assumptions start to change. And it's curious that in agriculture, everybody says that this really blows mind. Well, that's far from reality. People is really open mind, and probably is the same trend all across humanity. We're getting really used to consume data in different ways. So in agriculture is not an exception. They generate huge amount of data and they process huge amount of data. What we're trying to be very careful is to deliver not just more data because data, but to deliver data that are valuable and aggregated as possible. So trying to minimize the amount, but increase the quality that allows people to make the right decision, to realize about exactly what you say. It's not about what's next. It probably is by realize what you have done, and then you start thinking about what's next. So sometimes the data does not open all the possibilities, but start creating a path to improve.